Good evening, everyone. I hope you all had fabulous days and you're going into a wonderful evening. And let's jump right into Collectively Rewilding. All right. Here we are in Collectively Rewilding, and I am really kind of a little underwhelmed at the same time as overwhelmed with these community projects, right? I'm really busy and I want to do these things and I want to help those of you who have your own projects, but it feels like you guys are all just as busy. And so I haven't had a chance to really make any kind of plans. And so I thought, since I had to postpone today's class until a little bit later, thank you all for being willing to go with the flow, that we would kind of just talk about a little bit of a plan, at least around what I'm wanting to do to get involved in the city of Tooele and probably the county as well, right? And then I think that just Miss Tammy has her plans, and I'm pretty sure that she's in a holding pattern as well, but that's all something that she wants to take care of herself. So what we're going to do tonight is we are going to jump into the whole situation that's going on with meetings that are already taking place here in this local community of Tooele City and County. And so I'm going to refresh this so that the upcoming events start over. And there's no way really to pause it. So I'm just going to kind of open link in new tab and open link in new tab. And then the Grantsville City Council is something that I could be interested in later, right? Tammy actually utilizes resources from outside of her immediate area, her city, her county, when she's running dry on resources, as does Megan Pater, another one of our colleagues who works with a lot of nonprofits and for-profits, right? And then you have the County Chamber Ambassadors Meeting, Tooele County City Council Work Meeting. Interesting. So just those first two were something that I would be trying to get involved with. And so the Tooele County Chamber Board Meeting, and that is going to be on, and it's early. Of course it's early. Oh my goodness, early, 7 o'clock a.m. That's gonna kill me. And that was today. Okay. So I'm guessing that it will be at a similar kind of a time going forward, right? And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to set a reminder for myself as of December 1st to check for the upcoming county chamber board meeting, all right? And so go jump into my calendar and go into December, and on the 1st, right, give myself a few days, I will set an alarm to check for the Tooele. Let's see if it'll do it, right? It did. That's wonderful. County Chamber Board Meeting. And I'm going to just set that for all day and save it, right? There's one. And then I'm also just kind of interested in talking to someone and finding out if you're even allowed to go to these meetings as a citizen of the county, right? So what am I going to do? I am going to minimize this here till I have the full contact information for this person that is the contact outreach. There's 3 of them, it looks like, right? And now I'm just going to screenshot a little piece of the screen so that I can print this actually. All right, now, I don't know if I can print right from here. Yes, I can. All right, wonderful. That's everything I need, so I'll just print that up. and their excuse me, their website is listed. So I'm going to right click and make sure I open link in new tab. I don't want to go away from where we are here. The Tooele County Chamber and Tourism. We're in business to help businesses. And you have the directory, join, events, login. So it definitely looks like it's quite probable that they're welcoming citizens from the area to join into their meeting, right? And so that's what I'll have to just kind of keep looking at. Now, the next tab over is going to be the same kind of information for the Tooele City Council meeting. And that was, oh, and they're at the same time. Let's look at the information about where they're held. So you have to pick. One is at Tooele City Hall, and one is at the Tooele County Chamber of Commerce and Tourism. So I have to pick. Interesting that they would do that. Maybe every other month, right? Just attend one, probably start with the city, then attend a county meeting. Now, the next tab over is the Planning Commission, and they're going to be planning out this area that is undeveloped right here. I definitely would like to be able to at least hear, if not offer some suggestions. Oh, yep, if you would like to get an item on the agenda, the planning Wednesday of each month, the 2nd and 4th, and this would be the first Wednesday. So this is the 2nd and 4th, and it's at 7 o'clock p.m. I'm sure this was a.m. Yes. This one is way more my speed, right? Okay, so that's excellent. I will go ahead and actually just print this whole thing so that I have that. And all I need to do now is just right click and print from there. And so definitely one way or another, I have the tabs up that we pulled up in one of our last classes. Then you take another step. You want to make some sort of notation system for yourself, right? I'm going to keep these tabs up. Then those that I actually want to make an outreach for, I'm printing something up so that I have that physically right there to hand. All right, and so I'm going to print that. Oh, and I don't think that I got this here. Let me screenshot that as well and print it. Save it as the new one. Get this. Save that as well and print it. All right. Now, that is 3 different areas that I'm ready to make an outreach of introduction, finding out the protocols, what events I'm able to attend, what events I'm not able to attend, how much they welcome feedback, all of these different things. And we will do that next week when we get together at our normal time during business hours so that we can make at least one of those calls. Now, having that all ready, the next thing to do is to, of course, once we're not here doing all of this, set up a reminder for myself for the city council meeting as well. And then with the planning commission, that is something that I will just put into my calendar and do my absolute best to attend at least one of those this month, right? And so the next one will be, it is the 2nd Wednesday, right? Yes. That will be a week from today in the evening, which is so wonderful. I think that next week we should probably, I don't know if we should prepare for it tonight or prepare for it on Wednesday. let's check out some more of these tabs. If there's something else to dive a little more deeply into, we will. Otherwise, we'll go ahead and kind of start talking about what it is that I want to do to be prepared to go to this meeting, right? Because if it's asking to get an item on the agenda, then it's definitely a high probability that you are welcome to attend. Yes, the Planning Commission holds public hearings on most items. It looks like you don't get to attend and receives input from the public to facilitate citizen involvement and to gather relevant facts to aid in making recommendations and decisions. If you would like to get an agenda on the item. So yes, I will need to reach out to see if that's something that we can just attend as citizens, beyond the fact that they will let you put something on the agenda, if there are criteria for getting something put on the agenda, right? All of these different pieces. That's where you start making that initial contact so that you can move forward and get some names, maybe introduce yourself, make yourself feel a little bit more like a person so that the person on the other end of the line remembers you, and it begins your reaching out, your networking, your involvement in whatever it is that you're interested in your community to move forward, right? All right, so now jumping into the next tab, that is the tree advisory. And this didn't have a lot to it. I definitely want to look into perhaps maybe reaching out to the board members, right? They have information about what that is and who they are, but not even any kind of contact information. And this is one I am very interested in because they know that some of these trees in the city are problem trees. And I would really love to be able to make some suggestions about replacement trees, to find out what their criteria are for replacement trees, to find out how much room I have to choose if I want to cut these trees down and put something more healthy, right? They grow so fast. They're this weird hybridized, who knows exactly what kind of fake pear trees. They're technically Bartlett pear trees, but they don't put out pears. They put out these weird little berries that the birds don't even eat. They make a little bit of a mess. They're very weak wood to where they can cause problems by branches breaking off, and they stink because they're pollinated by flies. They're just a problem tree. So do I have the right to cut it down then on the easement next to the sidewalk? I'm responsible for it, but it's technically city property, right? So you have to get permission to do something in those areas in many locations. You have to find out from your location whether you get to choose a little bit more freely what happens there, or if you have to follow certain guidelines, make requests, what the different kinds of rules are for each of our various areas. And so this one's definitely going to take some more digging because there's nothing really here about talking to these people, right? It's just this advisory board, and it was created years ago, about almost to the day 4 years ago, right? So that's not very informative on being a part of that process. So that's why working within the county and the city to start talking to people, I can ask, is there any way to talk to the folks that are on this tree advisory? How much leeway do we have, et cetera, et cetera? Do you, oh, you don't know? Okay, do you know who handles that kind of information? Where I should go to find out who handles that kind of information, right? Those are all the kinds of questions that I'll want to ask when I start going to these different meetings. And so that's part of that preparation, right? So let's go ahead and just pull up a document, and we'll begin the notes for community outreach. And we'll just leave it at that. We'll put Utah. but it's both the county and the city, right? So now we want to start that whole essentially agenda, my own agenda for what I want to accomplish when I get started talking to people. And I would like to know how to contact the tree advisory committee. Boom. I have my first preparatory thought in my head, and there may or may not be a great opportunity to ask. I'm going to have it ready for when that opportunity is there. All right, so we're at the tree advisory. I think that's about here. Yes, now this is a different element. This is the tree programs, and they've been recognized by the Arbor Day Foundation as a Tree City USA. Part of our ongoing efforts to create a brighter and greener future for our community. To continue encouraging tree growth, we are excited to announce another fruit tree giveaway. And that was this last month, right? Darn, I wish I would have known about that. One free pear, peach, plum, or almond tree. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, how exciting, guys. That's exactly the direction that I was hoping that they were going to. So this gives me a lot of hope that I can reach out to someone somewhere and start talking about replacement trees for this easement and what different things could be done to encourage people to replace some of the problematic trees that are in their easement, including more aspen and silver birch, as well as these kind of stinky false pear trees and non-productive trees, messy trees that aren't even providing any real value for the bird species and the bug species, as well as the humans, all these different pieces. This really is what I love to see. And so that's really hopeful. I love that. Definitely going to do, again, some more digging. How do I talk to people about these tree programs? All right. And also for myself, these are great trees to check out to see if they're better. Now, it's interesting that they don't recommend almonds. I found 2 different varieties of almond trees that will work in this area, in this climate, right? And I would love to be like, hey, these are the kinds of almond trees that would work here. Why is there nothing here? You have just almond. There's many almonds, right? And here is Parks and Rec, Tooele City Government, and I've been told that I should reach out to them about 4 different times by different people. They like what I'm saying, and they're like, okay, yeah, that's great, but really the person you should talk to is Parks and Rec, so, or the department, right? And then, oh, so this must be an older one maybe? Yep, in May, they had one, and let's see, that looks like the beginning of it. They started it in May. So perhaps there will be another one in May. And that's just really exciting. Definitely going to check into that. That is the next tab leading into Parks, Arts, and Recreation, PAR, kind of a fun play on words there. And I think that has not only golf implications, but maybe some gaming implications. I can't remember. It seems like I've heard some things like core par or something like that. And perhaps they're being a little bit more trending or trying to be. But then they have a 2022 PAR information brochure. So reaching out to these folks is definitely going to be the most productive effort. All of these things are great, I'm sure, what it is, how it's funded. It's not a new tax. How do I learn more about it? And I wonder if this doesn't really have anything to do with it, and if we can't, but it goes from government right to Parks and Recreation. Like, this is their page. But that's what we talk about in our other community, right? In Let's Go Help Too. Places just don't keep these websites updated. Some are amazing, some are abysmal, and there's everything in between. And I don't even see, okay, it's just right here. Contact us. There's not a contact button. It's right here for us, though. So that is the next thing, of course, that I will want to screenshot and print. And I already saved this one, so we're going to grab, oh, and it messed it up. We're going to do that. And then see if I can keep it from doing the drop down menu. There we go. All right. Save. And print. And now I have 4 different contacts that I want to follow through on. And that's really the beginning stage. That's what, anytime you want to start doing something in your area, getting involved in your city, and if you're able to, in your county. It's really easy for me being in the county seat, right? Tooele in Tooele County. It's not always that easy. Each area has different ways of handling the outreach. They put, for my hometown, my home county, they put a lot of their information on YouTube now so that people who can't make it to meetings get to watch it on YouTube. And they actually do that live. So you never know what may be going on in your community, even if you can't make it to the actual physical seat, wherever it is that they're holding these meetings. All right. Definitely a lot of fun. And there is still, of course, all of these others, trash and recycling. I'm very interested in that. Actually, I have a suggestion I'd like to make to them. So let's get one more piece of contact information. I'm pretty sure that we're good there. These are going to go into like business resources, which of course are amazing. And then just some general resources, but nothing for what I would like to actively start working on. So I'm not going to get rid of this, but I am going to stop at this point for the people I'm going to be reaching out to. At that point, it's going to be 5 different areas of contacting, some of them with more than one possible contact option, right? So that'll be a process that we'll start working through on all of these various Wednesday classes. Should be a lot of fun and very stressful and one heck of an experience, right? I have definitely done outreach in communities before. However, Utah is its own fish. I don't know how else to say it. It definitely has some unique elements. I've been involved in Colorado, which is easy for me and also hard at the same time, being my hometown. That's the majority of time that I've spent in Colorado. I lived in another town for a couple of months, but mostly my hometown. And Wyoming, I was very heavily involved. I was active as an individual in California, but I wasn't really active in the community. I did actually have another experience in Colorado at Pueblo, the college there. They've changed the names since I was there, but I had a lot of involvement in the community there, as well as in Idaho, in Boise, when I went to college up there. And I just never really stopped. However, it's been harder in Utah than it has ever been anywhere else. And I even have some contacts here already from my interactions in Wyoming. So it's something that I've had to really rethink and rethink and rethink how I'm going to go about this. Now, that was, of course, always as a renter before. Now we own property here in the state, and that's going to change it to some degree. And yet I still think it's going to be a big experience outside of my previous realm of interaction with people in a similar context, right? Really quite challenging. It'd be almost comparable to moving from East Coast to West Coast, I would guess, in how very different interactions are in this state than in almost every state that touches it. I've lived in. I've lived in California, which doesn't touch it, but influences everything over here to the west, of course. Nevada, Arizona, Colorado, never New Mexico. I'm hoping never New Mexico, Wyoming, and Idaho. And they were all relatively comparable, each with their own unique characteristics, of course. And yet it was very easy to function because each one sort of functioned in a very similar fashion to the other. Wyoming was very insular, and yet still it was very comparable to the way that people interacted and the expectations that I could have from interacting with people that I met. in that area, very comparable to all of the rest of the states that I've lived in. But Utah, right smack dab in the middle, it's its own kettle of fish. It really has some unique characteristics, and it takes some real commitment if you want to work in community outreach and you're not from the area or involved with the LDS church, right? Mormon is the more commonly known terminology. LDS is the Church of Latter-day Saints, and they're known colloquially as Mormons because of their Book of Mormon, right? And so I actually have family members that are LDS, and I was baptized back in the day, but from what I've heard, I probably shouldn't have been given permission to be baptized because I was open about the fact that I don't agree with some of their principles, and that I was also, to say it softly, pagan and believed in the natural religions, let's say, right? And so they probably shouldn't have allowed me to get baptized. But from my understanding, they do believe in more than one Godhead, as in a family, right? And I'm not going to go too deep in that. Religious exposure isn't necessarily my thing anymore. I was quite into religion, and then I got very heavy into politics. And now I think that in all reality, community and your own involvement in nature are your best bets to make a difference in this world, which was, of course, always my base goal. Religion, politics, now community, always trying to find better ways to interact with nature and grow the opportunities and happiness and successfulness and health of any community that I'm a part of. Really, that's the overall goal, has never changed. It's just been looked at through different lenses. And so this, I think, is the key. And I feel like a lot of people think that communities are supposed to be the thing, right, for 2026. And we're already pretty heavily involved in 2 different communities, and we see what kind of support that provides us, and interaction and help for every one of us. Even though we're not in the same regions, we can all support each other on these different goal sets that we have. And some of us are even learning that we are in very comparable regions, right? As Tammy and Megan did, oh goodness, I don't know, probably 2 years ago or more now. But there is always that possibility as well. And within the gardening community, if you follow Tammy's lead and you become a master gardener or a master food preserver, that's an absolutely gorgeous way to put feelers out in a positive, proactive, fun, and educational way that will have a lot more welcome to it than some other types. And there's so many different things that you can do along those lines. But those are some that are, excuse me, already being modeled for you here in Collectively Rewilding. And that's what we really want to do. We want to show you that you are capable of doing what we're doing. It's hard sometimes, and it's scary and stressful even, but the more you do it, the easier it becomes. And we want to show you that whole progression for all of us. And like I said, this is something I've done over and over and over again in different states and been quite successful at. I had tried for about 5 years as a renter, and was able to have some marginal success, but definitely far below my normal expectations of my experience, right? And so now, take a breath, try yet again, and begin to build out that community. We did have a little bit more in Magna, and my husband builds community wherever he goes as well, but of course he is in a physical job. And when you're not in a physical location, meeting other people, whether you're going to school or at a job, going to church, it can be a little bit harder to build that community. I have a community still from when I did start off serving here in Utah, right? And realized quite quickly that from the time I took off and having my children, I wasn't really interested in serving the public as it stands anymore. It doesn't have the same positive, pleasant environment. And so I came in and started working in the online world and managing communities. And really, I think that this is just the best thing ever. As I said, I've always worked to build community wherever I go. And it's how we learn, it's how we help to have healthier lives for each of ourselves individually. Having community is statistically proven to improve health and longevity, right? That's such a big buzzword as well, right? Immortality, longevity. You see, even in the shows where all the rich people of the shows are experimenting with different things, and the upload, whatever that, I think that might be a Netflix or a Prime TV show where they upload their consciousness to the cloud. So it's something that's really talked about pretty heavily in our culture right now. And having community and activity in nature are two of the proven, statistically across the board, country to country, continent to continent, culture to culture. They are two of the things that increase longevity and health, along with gardening. Those are literally three of the things that increase your ability to reach that coveted 100-year of age grouping, right? The blue zone is something that I watched finally. I'm pretty sure it came out years and years ago, but it's a study that was done of all these different areas of the world that have, on average, more people that reach 100 years. And consistently, gardening, community, and involvement in nature, which a lot of times is that gardening, taking walks outside, all of those kinds of things are some of the consistent factors of these communities that have so many centenarians, right? I'm blessed. It comes a little bit down in my genes. My great-grandparents lived to be 92 and 96 on my maternal side, and my grandmother on my maternal side was just a bit before she turned 101. She had a first cousin that reached 103. A couple generations back, there was somebody that reached 107. And my paternal grandmother, she's going strong, pushing towards 90. And so if I take care of myself, my DNA is on my side, but there are things that we can all do. And those things, both of my grandmothers gardened. Of course, my maternal grandmother's parents gardened. My maternal grandmother's, or my paternal grandmother's story is quite different. She came from a wealthier family, and then it wasn't so wealthy anymore, but I don't know that she ever gardened, right? And so that only goes back one generation where I can show that. But all of my maternal side, they were absolutely engaged in things outdoors, things involved in nature, gardening, community, large families. Marriage is another one that consistently helps people to live longer, right? And so all of those things, really, family, children, education, a better way to interact with our environment, a better way to interact with each other, those have always been something that I've been really passionate about. And you may not have been passionate about it, and you may not have explored it in your life. And that's why if you come in and you join us, we're going to show you that it is something that any of us can accomplish. We just have to follow the same basic types of steps, and everybody's journey can look different, but we can still craft something that will have an approachable process for anyone that wants to join us, or you can model your own processes off of those that we show you here. As each of us that already have goals, right? We have 4 different Collectively Rewilding members, including myself and Miss Tammy, who's here with us tonight, who have different goals for our community, right? And they are quite varied. They go from California to Florida, and each one of those will be that person's unique journey, and it will be something that they can set up for themselves, that they can do comfortably. And so each one of us doing the same basic process, following the same overall flexible, loose guidelines, will look quite different. And each one of those different explorations, each one of those journeys, and working through to success can take a little while. These are big journeys for most of us. Tammy's is a little bit more interpersonal right now. Wendy's is a little more hesitant, but more towards a community effort. Candace is wanting to do more than one community garden with a community veggie bus. And then myself, I would like to branch out here in Tooele, in the city and the county, as well as working to find a strategy to get more tree trimming services, to understand about this getchipdrop.com service that can keep so much viable material out of the landfill, save those tree trimming services money so that they're not donating so that they're not destroying valuable mulch and logs and things that could be used by the citizens in their area. Instead, going through getchipdrop.com, taking those to one of the people in their area and saving themselves money, saving room in the landfill, saving valuable nutrients from being thrown into a waste cycle, all of these wonderful different things, right? And so that is the different types of community outreach that we would like to see in our different areas. And not just networking here in Tooele City and County. I should further that by saying that I would love to see a Very Juice strip park that runs all the way along here before it goes into apartments or condos. And then it would be wonderful if they put some shopping before they put industrial, to try to keep all of those homes, including the new ones that will be built, up at their full potential of property value, while still doing everything that the city was hoping for and creating community within that strip park through community garden plots and native plantings, so that people can see what the different native plants are from this area, have some of those that are edible for humans, right? Have the pollinator gardens that include some native plants and all of these different things, and involve, it would run all the way along as far as we could get it, these different homes and apartments that go for miles where there's just undeveloped land right next to it. Put in these different styles of gardens and showcase the water storage elements that we talk about so intensively here in Collectively Rewilding, because this is an area that's always struggling for water, right? So if we can put out a park that involves the community, that showcases how to conserve water to the utmost potential with our current understandings and the ancient into modern technologies that surround that whole thought process, that could be an example for the entire state. And I guarantee we could get into magazines, at least here in the West, where there's such prevalent drought all the time, and really make this city and county a leading voice. It's a red state, so it needs to be done with a fiscally with a tight watch on the budget strings, right? We want to make sure everything is less money than more, keeping it in that fiscal conservative red mindset, and show people that even in that conservative mindset, you can do things that work better with the environment. That's really the goal, and let that show for all of the nation that you don't have to put the environment onto this blue-red paradigm of contradictions. Instead, everybody could focus on doing the best that we absolutely can to move forward in a more sustainable, healthy, viable fashion, while not putting any state, county, or city into negative numbers with their budget. Right? That's really the goal. Blend everything, blend ancient and modern philosophies that work in our gardens, in our agriculture, in our not destroyed natural spaces, of course, saving as many of those as possible. All of these different things can be looked at as a cohesive whole. It doesn't have to be a battle. You can do both. You can look at even moving forward with some of these damaging technologies if the goal is always to be the least damaging possible, right? That's the only way really forward, is that we all have to find a way to work together to find ways that continue to maintain this planet's ability to sustain life, understanding that some people will never be willing to sacrifice that modern ideology and find some way to work together that's both sustainable and fiscally responsible, right? And that's the biggest goal of all. And I think that should be everyone's goal. And hopefully we are doing some of the things to show every one of you what you yourselves can actively start doing today in your own communities to move forward with what you think is a positive approach to the future and what your community looks like in that future, right? All right, everyone, let's jump back into Collectively Rewilding and check out our calendar. Tomorrow, we have an all-new look at our Gardens and More Q&A. It's going to become the Garden Planning Q&A. I love the new imagery for it. We've changed. We have some more color in our community. I love that. I think it makes it so much more pleasant to be in and look at, and that's really showcased here with the Garden Planning Q&A. We will start that tomorrow. Yay, I'm so excited about moving forward with everything we're doing for 2026 already. And that's going to be tomorrow, November 6th at 7:30 p.m. Pacific, 8:30 p.m. Mountain, 9:30 p.m. Central, and 10:30 p.m. Eastern. Hope you are all able to join, and I hope you all have a wonderful night. Please feel free to unmute everybody and say good night.
Good night.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
Enjoy your evening. See you tomorrow.